Hey, welcome to day 18. We are going to bring up those feelings of all these people with a lack consciousness, a lacking of money. Wanting is a lacking. When you desire something, it's a lacking feeling. Turn it around, it actually creates a lacking feeling on our part that we don't have those open people in our lives that are actually willing to spend money on themselves for their health and well-being. And they think that the price tag is huge. So all those people that have this poverty consciousness are in our lives. So if there's any part of ourselves having a poverty consciousness in our inner being somewhere, that's something we really need to look at to let go. Let go so we can freely share with others and heart to heart of what that really is all about. As far as the Kangen water business goes and sharing that with everybody, really in a nutshell, you can't compare apples to apples really with anybody as far as Kangen water versus something that they can buy on the shelf. It's just, there's nothing there to compare it with. So even if they just bought alkaline water, so it's totally, still oxidizing, so there's no antioxidants and it's still rusting out their body, just the alkaline part of it, people, you pay like $5 or more a day just for a gallon of alkaline water. You do the math, and that equals, what? $1,825 for a year? So, if we just share with people, like, I know that sounds like a ton of money, but if you actually use alkaline water and forget the antioxidant part of it, you're still spending a lot more money than if you bought an Energic water system. But that price tag is big at the very beginning, and to just get people to listen past that price tag can be a challenge. So can we welcome up those feelings of just having people be open enough to hear what we have to share with them, how we are offering them one of the most frugal health and well-being products that are out there, the most frugal. Can you welcome up all those feelings that people just aren't open to even hear? So maybe we're approaching them in some way that they can't hear us. We're triggering all kinds of stuff inside of them, so they're just going on shutdown. So can we open up and feel all those feelings? Like, they're just not hearing us again, or they just don't get it. And it can be, for more than just, Kangen water. There's many things out there that, can bring up these feelings. Just wanting to share, anything with people. Like if it's something that's going to trigger somebody in any form or fashion, then they're going to put their blocks up and they're not going to be open to listen. So it's not just the business of Kangen water, or the business of, for me personally, Kangen water, and for, being an herbalist, and for, doing time for you sessions. It's not about that. It's about, people's triggers, people's programs. So let's welcome up all those feelings of people just don't get it. They won't allow me to give them the information that is so crucial for them to know. If I could only just get them to see. So take some few moments and be open. So all those feelings that come up when we're have somebody in our life that's bringing up those triggers in us. Because if we knock out those triggers and come from this space of just peace and quiet and fully self-confident, just maybe, somebody might have more of a listening ear to give us. It's worth a try. And I, from experience, have been noticing and experiencing when I come from that space of quiet and peace inside, just purely giving from my heart, that people listen a lot more and they are a lot more open. So, can we open up and welcome up these feelings? Let us open up and welcome these feelings and just allow them to leave. And what's under those feelings? Is that wanting approval, wanting control, or wanting safety? Could be approval, it could be control, it could be safety. So mostly it's approval. It's, there's different, it can be all of them, but I'm going to work on approval. So, you can always use control. You can always use the word safety. Use those feelings of control, feelings of safety, feelings of approval. Allow them to come up. And let's step into our courageousness and repeat after me. I want freedom more than I want approval, control, and safety. I decide to let go, to be free. Now, could you let go of wanting approval so you can have approval? Yes. Could you let go of wanting approval so you can have approval? Yes. Which feels better, having approval or wanting approval? Having approval feels better. So could you let go of wanting approval so you can have approval? Yes. Do you have approval or do you still want approval? Check inside. Does it feel like you want or do you have? You can't have both at the same time. You either want it or you have it. Because if you have it, then there's no reason to want it because you have it. So, could you let go of wanting approval so you can have approval? Now, do you have approval or do you still want it? I have approval. If you still feel like you want it, then keep going around the exercise. And assuming that you have made the decision that you have approval and feel that having approval, could you have even more approval? Yes. And 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 even more approval? Yes. Now check in. What are you experiencing? Are there any feelings coming up? Kind of, there's something in the pit of my stomach or in my chest. If there are, just open up. Allow them to be there. Open up. And could you just let them go? And even more. 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 Are there any more feelings there? If there are, just allow them up. Don't push them down. Just welcome them. Welcome. Say yes. Yes to those feelings. Yes, even more. Just lovingly say yes to those feelings. And I'm the boss. And you can stay or you can go. I love you. You They're just feelings that are coming up, showing me that you're there, keeping me company all this time. And now it's time for you to be free. And I decide to let you go. So welcome those feelings up and say yes. And yes, some more. And yes, some more. And yes, even more. And could you just let them all go? See them going out the window. Just lovingly allow them to go. Be free. Just like you're letting a bird out of a cage that's been trapped for so long, just wants to fly free. Now, could you have even more approval? Yes. And even more approval? Yes. And even more approval? Yes. Could you expand that approval feeling? Yes. And could you expand that love and approval feeling? Yes. And even more? Yes. And expand that loving approval feeling even more? Yes. And even more? Yes. And even more? Yes. And even more? Yes. And expand that loving approval feeling out to every person that you can think of, every neighbor. Expand that loving approval feeling to your whole town. Expand that loving approval feeling to the whole state. Expand that loving approval feeling to the whole country. And expand that loving approval feeling to the whole world. And how does that feel? Does it feel peaceful, quiet, relaxing, calm, lighter? Could you just let go of the way that feels and see if it gets even better? There's no end to feeling ecstatic, to feeling better. Without any drugs involved, you can just keep letting go and keep feeling better and better. Happier and happier. Peaceful and free. So can you just surrender into that moment? And if you're still feeling stuff coming up, or feeling like you don't have them, please go through the exercise again for your sake and all of ours. Because from this happy, free place that we can get to, that's how we make the biggest difference in the entire planet. That's having peace within, to create peace outside of ourselves, rather. Have an amazing day. Aloha.